Welcome to Aspire to Retire.
The show that helps you plan smarter, retire with confidence, and enjoy that future you worked so hard for.
We're diving into the strategies and insights you need to build a secure and fulfilling retirement.
No jargon, no confusion, just clear, expert advice to help you take control of your retirement.
Because when it comes to your financial future,
every decision matters.
This is Aspire to Retire.
Hello and welcome to Aspire to Retire. I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. This is the show that helps make the most of your retirement years. Now today we are focusing on maximizing Social Security and pension benefits for a comfortable lifestyle. So retirement planning is not just about saving. It's about making smart decisions to get the most out of the benefits that you have earned. So let's introduce our guests. As always, Ralph and Tim Short, part of the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners, a local fiduciary firm that prepares people for a successful retirement. Welcome to the show, guys. Good to see you.
Great
seeing you.
All right, so let's dive right into this. What is the earliest age someone can claim Social Security benefits, and what would you say are the trade-offs?
I would say 62 because of the government rules and regulations is the earliest that you can claim it. Okay, unless you're on disability, then it's a different situation. But under normal circumstances, 62. And the issue with that is whatever you thought you were getting at full retirement age, it's going to be reduced down to 70% of what that number is, no matter what it is.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, now, you just said what happens if you wait till 70 to claim that Social Security. Anything else people should know about that?
Well, I think it depends on the strategy that's right for you is what fits best with your retirement plan, right? If you're married, it's going to be different than if you're single, right? Because you're not necessarily leaving a benefit to anybody, but also too, potentially, if you were married or widowed or whatever, there could be some other avenues to take a look at. Now, I feel like we should put out a big disclaimer with this because this is all subject to change, right? They've talked about it forever is, hey, if I think the year right now currently is 2035. If changes are implemented, there's going to be maybe a reduction in benefits or what have you. But at age 70, that's the longest that you can delay. That's going to be the highest benefit that you can receive, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if we know, hey, we're going to live to age 100, you're probably better off waiting until age 70. But if we know, hey, we're probably going to pass away at age 69, then maybe we should have taken it at 62.
Let's ask the crystal ball.
Right. So there's a lot of things that come into play, but it's not just how long you're going to be on this big, beautiful earth, but it's also about, your spouse too. So it is a combination of things.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Okay, let's say there's one spouse who takes the Social Security at 62. Let's say the other one takes it at 70. Now, let's say the one who takes it at 70 passes away first. Does this other spouse surviving get her benefits plus his, or how does that work?
They would just get the higher of the two benefits.
Okay.
But they would need to understand that the lower one is going to be gone. So if you were relying on that to pay your bills, you might have a little situation that you have to adjust. But no, you would not get both of them.
Gotcha.
It's just the higher of the two.
Okay, right. So you would get the higher of the two.
Yeah,
then.
And that's what we talk about is, regardless if it's the higher of the two or not, you're still going to lose a check. But don't forget, there's also that lump sum benefit that they pay out too of $255. So there's
Wait, what?
Yeah, so there is a lump sum as well that everybody can receive. So yeah, it is what it is at this point. I know you don't like that phrase.
$255. Where does that even come into play?
That's a good question. So, but it's better than nothing, right? So you've got to make sure that hey, if we lose a check, even if it's higher, what if you guys made the same amount of money your entire career and both of you are getting $3,000 a month, right? So now you're not changing the benefit and you're losing $3,000.
Yeah.
But the other thing that people need to understand too is sometimes this happens. In fact, more times than not, you may be in a higher tax bracket paying more income taxes on that one income than you were on the two, because guess what? Now you're in a single filer tax bracket instead of a married filing jointly. So that does happen to a lot of people and they just don't understand why.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. That's rough.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you got half your money, say, but paying more taxes. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't like it though.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Now, let's say somebody has both a pension and Social Security. I think if you have a pension these days, you're lucky. Now, if you have both, does that change things at all?
Well, there's a little variation there. Most people are going to get Social Security and their pension, right? But there are some provisions out there that could, potentially eliminate or reduce benefits paid to you. So once again, we go through our retirement roadmap process for these particular situations. So we want to make sure that we can maximize our income in retirement.
And I would say if you've got both, then you're pretty lucky and
Yeah.
enjoy what you can. But the biggest thing to understand is that you're going to have to pay taxes on both of them. If you're over a certain amount, you may be getting more cost in your Medicare because you're making too much money at that point in time. So be aware of those factors.
Right. Now, what if you have a military retirement? Does that change at all?
Well, those can get kind of complicated because depending on where you were, what branch, there's so many different avenues out there to pay attention to. And once again, this is why we kind of walk through these different scenarios,
Yeah.
because what you want to not do, what you don't want to do, is have the wrong decision. Because a lot of times if you say, hey, this is my choice, this is my selection, and you start collecting money, there's no going back, right? So we want to make sure that the option that you select is going to be right for you.
And you can't change your mind when it comes to a pension after it's got started, just like Social Security. So you need to be aware, and that's why we always offer a second opinion for people to
Yeah.
come in as fiduciaries, say, hey, this is what we would recommend based on your particular situation, because everybody that comes in our office is different, and every decision that needs to be made is based on what they want to do, not what we want them to do, or not what the home office back up in Boston might want you to do. It's based on you and what your
Right.
choices are.
Yeah. All right. Going back to pensions for a second, what are the key differences between defined benefit and defined contribution pensions? I know those are some big terms that I'm not even sure. So
Basically, on the contribution, that means that you're going to put in money that you want to contribute to. Defined benefit means that the company is going to give you what they think you want to have. Okay? There's a big difference between the two. You cannot really make too much of a change in defined benefit during your working years. You can on your contributions.
Yeah, so each one of them are going to work a little bit different, but the benefit plan is going to give you some sort of fixed payout, whereas the other plan, is going to be based off investment performance as well. So there's a lot to do with that, but either way, a lot of these are kind of going by the wayside because now everybody's but trying to position themselves, companies are positioning themselves to, hey, now the employee's got to be self-reliant. We've got to make sure that we give them the 401k or the employer plan and let them do the contributing.
And the thing to understand when you say defined contribution, that basically means a 401k and 403b, things of that nature.
yeah. Okay. Now we talked about Social Security, that income being taxed. So what's the best way to estimate your future Social Security benefits?
Knowing what your income is going to be. I mean, that's the biggest thing that you need to focus on. And you may not know what it is. You may know what your pension is going to be. You may know what your Social Security is, but you don't know what your RMDs may be.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now you got to add all that together. It may throw you in a different tax bracket, and you may get more taxes than you expected in retirement.
Right. Having some good conversation here, guys, but we do have to take a brief break. So before we do that, Tim, tell us about our special offer.
All right, thanks. So the first 10 callers from today's program, if you've saved $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We love the opportunity to bring you into the office where we'll create your very own retirement roadmap just for you. Best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
All right, guys, you heard it right there. We're going to open up those phone lines. So if you'd like some personal advice about retirement planning or to schedule a consultation, these guys are amazing. Call 833-897-4845 or simply scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen. More to come after the break. Stay right here.
Imagine the future you've been wanting all along. A world where your retirement income is covered and you don't have to worry. Your financial assets are protected, and you have an experienced team fighting every day to grow your assets. Imagine a company creating tax strategies and legacy plans to make sure your loved ones are protected no matter what happens. At Welcome Home Financial Partners, we're an experienced financial team with the right professional licenses and an unbreakable commitment to making our clients feel like family. Here you'll find determined, friendly faces in a world filled with obstacles and problems. We help plan your retirement income to ensure you won't run out of money in retirement. We build in protection to make sure your assets are covered on all sides. We focus on growing your wealth to combat inflation and rising cost of living. And we design tax strategies to help you avoid paying back what you shouldn't while protecting the people you love. Our team never stops fighting for you. With an unparalleled work ethic, we work hard because we know your future depends on it. We're proud to help you choose the life you want to live in retirement. Welcome to your financial future. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. We're having some fantastic conversation today, so let's hop right back into this. Okay, guys, we're talking about Social Security here, which I know is a hot topic. So why don't people know how to maximize their Social Security?
When was the last time you had a class in claiming Social Security?
Right? Never.
No, never.
We
And-
should get this in school. I really think so.
And if you were lucky enough to start thinking about
Yeah.
it, and you receive a book about this thick about Social Security or Medicare, when to claim and things like that, it's kind of foreign and Greek to most people.
It is. We don't learn any of this stuff. How to raise kids, how to buy a house. I mean, right? We learn by doing.
Those are some difficult subjects there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, they don't do their research on, what the effects are of claiming early or late or whatever. And it's really important that you go get the advice of, hey, if you select this option, this is what things are going to look like. If you select another option, this is the effect that it's going to have on your Social Security. So I think a lot of times when we talk finance, a lot of people kind of roll their eyes back in the back of their head because it's nothing of interest to them and it's
Right.
not in their industry. They're not familiar with it. But it's very important to do your research and get that advice.
Yeah, I never had a single finance class. It wasn't required. So
Okay.
that's a problem.
In Penn
Could be.
State, right?
At Penn State. I
That's
know.
right.
Well, granted, I majored in meteorology and communications, but I guess finance wasn't important. That's why you guys come in. So that's why having somebody like you is important to get advice, because when is the best way, or what's the best way to decide when to claim those benefits? And I think I know what you're going to say.
Yes, it
It
depends.
depends,
That's
yes.
right. So, and really it depends on your situation, whether you're in bad health, whether you're in good health, whether you're married, whether you're single, or whether you just say, hey, I just want to do it because I can. It may not be the best situation because you do need to understand, like Tim says, the ramifications of your decisions. Because if you're going to get 70% of what you thought you were going to get, is that a good decision? Because once you make that decision, you're going to be losing that amount of money for the rest of your life because you cannot make any changes.
So, okay, just so we know this, when you retire at 62, if you retire at 70, what's the difference in the money you collect, I guess percentage-wise?
So everybody's got what's called a PIA, which is going to be their full retirement benefits. So depending on what year you were born, there are some folks that are or before 67. Most people at this point in time is age 67 for their full retirement age. Now it's supposed to roll up 8% each year, right,
Okay.
until you claim.
Yeah.
So that's why one big thing that you need to pay attention to is your other sources of income,
Yeah.
right? So if you don't need Social Security, maybe we delay it, right? If you're in good health, you've got longevity in your family, maybe it's better to delay. But once again, I'm going to steal his thunder, it just depends on that individual.
Yeah, 8% a year. I mean, that's a lot of extra money you can get if you just wait.
Yes, but think of it this way too. If you're like, you know what, I'm going to go for my highest benefit. My parents are still living, they're in their 90s or pushing 100, right? I've got really good health currently, and my spouse is going to depend on this, but let's say you've only saved up $200,000 and you don't have a pension.
Oh.
Is it wise to spend down on your assets just for Social Security to build up? Right? So you got to look at it that way. So once again, it just depends on that person's situation.
And you do need to have somebody that understands what you're trying to do. You just cannot call somebody down the road or talk to your neighbor or the water cooler talk around there. What should I do?
Right.
Well, they don't know your situation. They don't understand what you're trying to do. So you need a second opinion, or at least a first opinion. Which way is better for me? Because it is all based on you and you alone.
That's true. It's not one size fits all, as we've said
Right.
before. And then what about survivor benefits? What should spouses know about that?
Well, there's different ways of doing that too. So once again, it all depends on the scenario that's played out in front of them. But, if you don't know your different claiming strategies, how do you know what could potentially fit the best in your retirement income plan? We run a Social Security maximization report with each roadmap, and what it will show you is how you can maximize Social Security with a whole lot of hypotheticals, right? Because that's what we can go off of. But that doesn't necessarily mean to maximize Social Security still fits inside of your plan. Like we talked about, if you didn't do well with savings and you spend down your assets just to build up Social Security, that might not be the right strategy. So these are things that we like to include in our retirement roadmap.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how can retirees, though, reduce taxes on Social Security and pension income?
Basically, you just kind of need to know how much income you've got coming in and whether you want to take more from a 401k or an IRA that will increase your taxable income. Well, that may not be a good situation but you have to know those things, what your income's going to be, because it is based on income. It's not based on your age. It's not based on your retirement status. It's always going to be based on income. Yeah.
Okay. And so then what would you say is the best way to integrate Social Security with other retirement income sources?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that, right? So taxes is one of them,
Yeah.
right? If you're pulling out of pre-tax vehicles, you're going to have to pay taxes on all of those distributions. If you're pulling from like a Roth account or what we call a non-qualified or after-tax account, you might not, well, on the Roth, you're not going to pay taxes as long as you follow the rules and the guidelines. But when it comes to just like a regular investment account, whatever gains that you get out, potentially you could have some taxation there. So it is a very holistic approach, if you will. And it's not just, hey, you know, if we've got X, Y, and Z income, what is that going to look like as far as taxes? Because taxation on Social Security is a little bit of a different scenario, if you will, because not all of it will be fully taxable. Now, once again, disclaimer, that is as of today.
Oh my goodness, right. It changes so often.
That's right.
Pension payments, can they be adjusted over time?
No.
No.
Not unless they've got some type of clause in there for like inflation or something like that. But once you set your pension up and you decide that you want an employee-only pension, single life, that's done.
Oh,
If
wow.
you have 50% survivorship, you make that choice, that's what it's going to be. Even if your wife passes on or your spouse passes on, you can't make those changes even though it reduces your benefit from that point in time.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
my.
it's important to realize that every pension works a little bit different, right? So each pension plan will be different. Some of them do have cost of living adjustments to where, you know, if the whatever guide they're using year in and year out, if it's up 2%, they're going to probably give you a 2% increase, right? But not all pensions work that way. There are some pensions that you could potentially modify, but you know, you could potentially lose out on some benefit there too. So once again, it's very important. And we work with people quite a bit that they come to us with, hey, you know, these are my pension options. What would you recommend? And we incorporate that in the retirement roadmap because a lot of people, you know, they'll get a pension buyout per se. You know, we've seen that over
Yeah.
the years and say, hey, instead of the company now being on the hook to pay you, right, through your retirement years, now the onus is on you and say, they'll give you a lump sum of $300,000, right? Then what do you do with that? A lot of people take that $300,000, stick it into their bank, then guess what happens next? Now they're paying tax on $300,000. So you could roll it out and roll it into an IRA where you can defer taxation, right? But then at that point, maybe you could set up your own benefit plan too. So that's why it's very important when you have options in front of you, get the advice.
But that's why as fiduciaries, we're trying to help you make the best decision for you in your best interest.
Right, and that's what a fiduciary is, because are not all financial professionals fiduciaries?
That is correct.
Yeah, and it's important to do your research, right? And we see it quite a bit where there's folks out there that are in the industry and they're not fiduciaries, right? They're only, we like to call it product peddlers, and they're just trying to sell you something. We're not trying to say anything. We're just trying to help you in your retirement and guide you through retirement.
Yeah, all right, it's time for a commercial break, but before we do, Tim, tell us about our special offer.
All right, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers from today's program, if you've saved $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love the opportunity for you to come into our office and we'll create your very own retirement roadmap just for you. Best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
Keep those questions coming. Take advantage of our professionals and call for advice now or even schedule that consultation. Again, it's 833-897-4845. Coming up next, it's our favorite part of the show. We'll feature some of your burning questions.
It was the longest running bull market in history. Everything was looking up. While inverted yield curves pointed to a recession, the market kept going. And then, if you're planning to retire soon, that could spell bad news for your returns. Our team can help you better withstand the bear market. Now more than ever, you need a financial professional to stand with you. Visit our website to learn more about our services. You can call or email our office to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. Yes, it is our favorite part of the show. Time to feature some of your questions. And we're going to start with Carol from Short Pump. Carol says, can I work and still collect Social Security?
Well, we get this quite a bit, right? So it depends on your age. So if you do claim before your full retirement age, which is once again different for everybody, your benefits could be potentially reduced. So you've got to make sure, if you don't, and I say this generically, but if you don't necessarily need the income, why are you going to lock yourself into a lower benefit when you don't need it because you're working, right?
Yeah.
Why not let that build up? So that's a little bit different than if we retire early and delay Social Security. So every strategy is going to be different for every individual, but just be aware that if you're going to work full time, you're going to make over, more than likely, that ceiling that they cap out on the income. So if you do that, then your benefits will be reduced.
Oh, wow. And then that's it, right? Once you take it, it's staying at that level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, of course, we've got the cost of living adjustments, so
Right,
there are some
right.
fluctuations there.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. David from Chester says, can I change my mind after claiming Social Security? Which I think I just answered that.
That's right. You're not able to make those changes at that point in time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your pension. Once you make that decision on how you want your pension back to you, it's gone.
Yeah, in the first 12 months, there's a little wiggle room, right? You could pay it back, but after that, you're in.
So it's kind of like when the kids say to each other, no backsies, right? You can't go backwards.
We can go with backsies.
Do you remember that? Did
No,
kids
I
say
don't
that
remember
to you?
Not
No.
to me.
Maybe that was a my generation thing. No backsies.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So you're trying to tell me I'm older than you
Not
are?
at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I would never say that. Nancy from Sandston, you're just wiser. How do I know if my pension has survivor benefits?
Well, I mean, every pension is going to work a little bit different, but once you get those pension options, it should lay all your options out there, right? There are so many different pension plans that offer different strategies, if you will. I think it's important when it's a husband-wife situation or spouse, whatever, we make sure that we select the right thing, because if you're working with somebody, let's say that the husband is 70 years old, but the spouse is 55, right? Odds are they're not going to outlive their spouse. So we probably need to take a look at survivorship. But what survivorship will look like is you're going to get a reduced amount, more than likely. Now, a little caveat to that is there's a particular company here in Richmond that they have some special opportunities out there. So once again, each pension option is going to work a little different. But if you want to pass on your pension check, per se, to your spouse, that's called survivorship. But you give some of that up. So let's just say they're both 65 years old and the male actually lives longer than the female. So then at that point in time, you've given up some of your benefit and you didn't pass anything on. So once again, these are things that we talk through in the retirement roadmap.
Yeah, that's complicated.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, that's why you guys are so important. And speaking of complicated, this next question, Tom from Goochland says, what happens if my pension plan is underfunded? Does that happen?
It can happen to some people in some
Yikes.
situations, but it's not something that you can really worry about because you have no control over it. What you want to do is just to make sure you understand how things work. There are some guarantees with some insurance situations, kind of like the FDIC, but it's called PBGM or something like that with the pension. But it's just one of those things that you have no control over. You just make sure that you've got another side of your investment portfolio and stuff that you can have access to in case something did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's very important to make sure you've got a holistic retirement plan, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've got Social Security and that goes away or is reduced, your pension maybe could go away, right? So these are all things that you've got to incorporate in your plan.
I can't even imagine having pensions because so many people, it seems like in my generation, are working for themselves. And so we don't even have a 401k.
That's right. That's why you need to make sure you understand that sooner or later you're going to be responsible for your own retirement outside of
Right.
Social Security. Because Cheryl, I don't believe you're going to be able to live the lifestyle that you wanted in retirement.
I know.
Just on Social Security.
No way, no way. I mean, that's why I've got the IRA, the Roth, and like you said, different buckets. So it's important to do that. Debbie from Tuckahoe says, should I take a lump sum or monthly pension payments?
Well, I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? What you'll get out of a lump sum is you'll have a whole lot more flexibility, right? So it's not, hey, this is all we're getting, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say you take the defined payout, right? And they're going to give you $2,000 a month, and you don't have a COLA adjustment on that. You're going to receive $2,000 a month for the rest of your life. Do you want to live in retirement and wait for your next check? No, you don't want to live check to check.
Right.
More than likely, a good option could potentially be, let's take that lump sum buyout or payout, let's stick it into an IRA so we can defer taxation, and then let's come up with a payment plan there, or just let it build up. Let's invest it and let's build up a big pot of money.
But the other thing you need to understand is if you have a pension and if you're not on survivorship, that payment stops not only for you, but maybe for your spouse. And if you have a lump sum that's sitting over here in an IRA and you pass on, guess what? Whatever's left over here, your spouse or your beneficiary, whoever that's going to be, it could be a girlfriend or it could be a boyfriend, whatever at that point in time, but that money is that person, whoever your beneficiary is.
I never thought of it that way. It kind of reminds me of if you're fortunate enough to win the lottery, do you take the payouts or the lump sum?
Well, first thing you have to do is move to California, because I feel like they're the only people who ever win the lottery.
I
But
know,
anyway.
right? I know, yes. It sounds good to me. Gosh, I don't even know how people win the lottery. I'd love to do that. Next question, Frank from Hanover says, do state employees have different Social Security rules?
Yeah, some do, right? But this kind of goes back to, there's so many different variations to Social Security strategies, pension strategies. That's why it's important to get that advice, right? Because you don't want to make a mistake in retirement. I don't think anybody ever wants to enter in retirement just to go back to work because they have to, because they no longer have any money or they just can't fund their lifestyle.
Horrible.
Remember, we still don't have a class for any of this education.
I know.
And that's more important at that point in time in your life to understand what you do than any other time in your life.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So Cheryl, we've talked about the retirement red zone before, right? So we're looking probably 5 years before retirement. These type of options are things that we need to take a look at, because that's crucial. Because if you are going to be able to get a pension, Social Security, we need to make sure that those claiming strategies are right for you.
Yeah, good points. Lisa from New Kent says, what's the best way to plan Social Security around my spouse's benefits? I know we've talked about this a little bit, and quickly, this is the last question.
Well, what I would say to her, she needs somebody to talk to and have a second opinion on that, and educate them as to how it works, and let them make a decision.
All right, well, it's the end of the show. Tim, one more time, our special offer.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers from today's program, if you've saved $250,000 or more for retirement, give us a call, 833-897-4845. Once again, we'd love the opportunity to bring you into the office, and we'll create your very own retirement roadmap. Best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
All right, once again, if you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call right now. That number again is 833-897-4845 to claim your spot, or scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen. On behalf of all of us at Aspire to Retire, I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. Have a great day.